And you're listening to Business Express on Smooth 98.1. It's Omas and Zibby. As always, we're talking about everything related to business and money. We have a special guest joining us this morning. I'll let you know how you can be a part of the show. The WhatsApp number to send your messages to is 0809 4440981. You can also tweet at Smooth981. And we're streaming live on our YouTube channel as well. So you can catch the live stream and even post a comment on there. It's Smooth981 on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe.
Well, I guess this morning is someone who gets to see a whole lot of employees in a field of profession, and so talks to them, motivates them, and gets them going. So we say she would come tell us this morning on this topic, the challenges facing happy employment in Nigeria. And joining us now is Nneka Jethro-Iruobe, the happy employee coach. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Thank you for having me this morning.
All right, welcome Nneka. So I'm going to start off by asking this. Do you think that the average Nigerian employee is well appreciated?
That's a very interesting question to ask, right? And the answer is yes and no. Okay. Yes and no, because some employers do want to appreciate their employees. They have the best intentions, but the challenge is sometimes even employees don't even know what will make them feel appreciated, right? And I think that there is a gap in knowledge of the many benefits of being an employee. I think that's where there is a gap. Many people do not understand that there is more gain in being an employee than just the salary that they receive. And so because people are blind to the other benefits of employment, they don't seem to maximize and feel as appreciated because they're not getting maximum value possible from that employment relationship. So I'd say yes and no. Sometimes is no, because the employer doesn't know what else to do and how well to communicate the value that they are providing to the employee. And also because the employee themselves is also ignorant of the many ways that they can maximize and, in quotes, take advantage of being an employee. So I'd say yes and no.
This takes us to the next question, which will be how can businesses show appreciation to employees? 2023 is gone already, so projecting into the new year 2024, how can this happen better?
The first thing I think is that is on most employees' minds is more money, right? Everybody
Amen.
wants everybody wants to earn more. Whenever I teach people, I say to them that the song that they say, Dangote still they find money, everybody wants to earn more. So I think it's the first thing. But going beyond that is empowering employees to do better with their finances and have more wholesome lives, right? A research by, I think it was the Financial Association in America, showed that 1 in 2 employees, about 51% of employees, believe that their employer has an obligation to support their financial wellness. An obligation, right?
Mm,
So this is people going beyond saying you are paying me, oh yes, you paid me, you didn't pay me, all of that, and saying, teach me how to make the most of the money that you are paying me, right? The same way there is over from COVID till now, there's been a strong drive around mental wellness. How can employers are beginning to pay more attention to that via education, providing resources and all. I think that there's a need for us to also begin to move more to financial wellness, providing financial education so people can get the value from the salary and make the most for them. So that's
mm.
one thing to do, expanding to employees there. But if we find sometimes people want to resign and they don't realize that, oh, they had access to XYZ benefits, right? People don't know that, oh, they had access to XYZ number of extra days of leave for work. So that education of the full length of the employee value proposition, what the employer is bringing to the table, I think is critical and will define how employees will feel better appreciated in 2024.
All right, so this is something that's quite common in Nigeria. A lot of employees believe they are underpaid. Some employees have to wait for their salaries to come much later than stipulated. And in some cases, those salaries are not even coming at all at the times that they should. What is the solution to this, making sure that employees actually live up to the responsibilities that are clearly stipulated?
I think the first thing is regulation, right? But regulation comes with the demand to track. And we know that here in Nigeria, tracking anything is not something we do well or we have done well so far, right? Because it's one thing to put a regulation and say, oh, you are required to pay your people. I mean, old labor law that we had says people should be able to go on break for 1 hour, but who is tracking to make sure that that happens, for example, right? So there's regulation, but there's also the actual enforcement and the resources required to make sure that things are actually enforced, right? And employers are held accountable for what they do, when they pay, how they pay. I mean, someone was complaining to me the other day how they were promised a particular bonus, they delivered the target, and everybody just went cold. There was nothing. So what happens? What's the recourse for that employee? And how are there stories that show that when employees seek that recourse, they actually do get something out of it, and they're not punished later on? So there's that whole range that has to do with. So regulation and the other thing I'd say is education. People understanding what it means to create value, right, and having options. So we're not just going into school educating people about coming out and getting a job, end of story, and that's the only way you can make money. But education that helps people to be empowered to say, what else can I do to create value and make money and sustain money? Because when people don't have options, then they feel stuck. We must stay here. We don't have anywhere else to go to. There's no other choices. But when there's education and people feel empowered, then they have choices. And it becomes, and actually Nigeria is actually getting to the point where by becoming an employees market. It's really becoming an employees market these days. If people have options, right? But more and more is regulation. But then, is there a backing? Is the government committed to that conversation? That's a whole lot, a different line of conversation that we need, because no one person can fight a corporation. So that's why you have things like class action in other parts of the world. We can't. I mean, we're trying to eat here. We can't start putting money aside to say you want to fight anybody, really. So that's the issue.
So your response already scratches the surface of the next question for you, and that is saying choices, and that talks about the hustle mentality, or if you like, side hustles that you've talked about being options. But is the result of the harsh economic conditions that we are facing get us by nature? Is this what it's leading us into now, to become hustlers?
Interestingly, right, hearing this question reminds me, I actually drafted an email to my email community, which is going out later this morning, about this issue of, is side hustle the solution, or is it that we are money illiterate, right? That's what the mail builds. When I heard the question, I'm like, okay, interesting, right? I'm thinking, in this line, I find that it's almost mandatory in today's world. It almost feels like you are odd if you don't have a side hustle. It almost feels like if someone buzzes you on WhatsApp and one automated response is not coming up, a CEO XYZ, then there's something wrong with you. But I find that the first issue is getting money trained, right? We're not money trained in this part of the world. And what do I mean by that? Two things. First, the fact that many of us show up at work as employees feeling these people don't want to pay me money. They should give me more. They should pay me more. We lose, or we are blind, or we are ignorant to the connection between the work we are doing, the value it creates, and revenue that comes into the business. Most of us show up, and I've taught this at several HR forums and all of that, and HR people agree, confirm this. Many people show up at work losing the fact that it is the work I'm doing, is this report that I'm preparing, that a client gets to pay for, that gets my salary paid. And it will shock you how rife this is in the corporate world. Many people don't have that connection. And that's why I say people are not monitoring. The second thing is people don't understand that money is currency. Money is designed to flow. And if you don't put a leash on your money, it will carry you to go where you don't know. Literally. Money is powerful to take you where you don't know. So we find people at the end of the year working 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and they are wondering, these people did not pay me well enough. I'm not doing what have I've suffered. I've given my blood and sweat to this company. What do I have to show for it? Well, you had an agreement for XYZ amount of money. Now, what you did with it and how you use it to create future value for yourself was your responsibility. Even though, like I said, research has shown that 1 in 2 employees believe the employer is obligated to teach them how to use the money well. That's different. That's what forward-looking employers will look out for. But the point is, a lot of us feel trapped that if we don't have something else doing, then we cannot be balanced. I say no, you've got to sort out your financial habits, build good financial habits, master money first, because otherwise, no matter how much passes through your account, it will still go back to the same thing. I do not have enough. And so you are locked in that pursuit of money, and it never ends. And that's what I say the problem is. And someone would say to me, oh, but you call yourself the happy employee coach, you have a job. I didn't set out to become happy employee coach because I was looking for a side hustle. It was from a place of seeing people pained and frustrated at their jobs are not even able to engage with their bosses, not even able to have conversations with their bosses, that I started teaching this. The first year or two, there's literally no money coming from it. I was showing up on Instagram Live every Sunday, teaching people how to be happy at work and the various ends to it. So I think it's this drive to show that we have more. We have more. And it's exacerbated in our own society because money is announced as a status symbol. Money is what is used to measure respect. Money determines how people speak to you. Money determines how people greet you or don't greet you. You know, if your title is not changing every day, if you're not buying a new car in 3 years, you know, if you're not, I mean, you walk in the basest of, you know, the Agbero, the newest t-shirt he wants to wear, the baddest iframes he wants to wear. It's all about, that's what we show as a sign of respect and having arrived. And that's the challenge. So I want people listening this morning to know that if you don't separate and build good money habits, no matter how much your side hustles or whatever you're doing is bringing in, you will still be frustrated and not happy. That's the fact.
Speaking about this hustle and side hustle mentality, it brings into question that idea of work-life balance. Is it something that can actually be achieved? And if you're trying to achieve that, do you have to let one go?
So this just flows from what we were talking about, right? Because if you don't fix the understanding that, for example, I tell people salary will never be enough. Let's fix that understanding. Why? Because you are a growing person. You always want more. So stop spending time and energy blaming the salary and fixing the things you want and practicing contentment, right? If you don't have the mindset of you've got to practice contentment, what happens is you are constantly chasing money and your life, your health, your family will suffer. It just goes. So boundaries are what is important. We must intentionally as employees practice that setting of boundaries. I will stop working at this time. I will give an hour or two to this side passion I'm trying to build. If you don't do that, you will burn out and you will hate the money. And then you start trying to use the money to fix your health, try to use it to fix family time, it doesn't work. So that's why I say that if you settle it, that contentment is the name of the game, enjoying the journey where you are today, even though you want more. And there's nothing wrong with wanting more, but if you don't enjoy today while wanting more, you will burn out. So that's why I say to people, practice contentment. Salary will never be enough. Find out what makes you happy and channel the salary you're earning to give you that every day on a daily basis. Don't wait for one future day when finally, oh, I'll get all the money I have. It's not going to happen.
Now, they're still into, okay, if the employees cannot find that balance, is it possible for the employers to help them find a work balance for them?
So, yes and no. No, because even if I say shut down at 6 p.m., what you do with the rest of your time, really, I don't have control over. Right? So even if we say lights out, we resume at 8, it's supposed to close at 5, we extend it till 6 or 7. What you are doing between 7 p.m. and 8 a.m. in the morning, I don't have control over as an employer. I can send out reminders to rest, which is something my own employer does. I can train you on how to shut down and all of those things, but it's really up to you to decide what you use that time to do. So I can educate as an employer, I can teach you, but as an employee, you've got to be very intentional about protecting and setting time boundaries.
Right, I've got about 30 seconds and I can't let you leave, Nneka, without asking you this. What is the ideal or the fulfilling, how do you describe a fulfilling work experience? You're the coach. What would every employee need to have a fulfilling work experience where you're excited about going to work? You are looking forward to seizing the day. And then at the end of the day, you're not going home in tears or worrying about what am I doing with my life? How do you get that fulfilling work experience?
There are three things that determine a person's happiness at work. One is the pay, two is the people you work with, and three is your performance, right? Now, people pay salary, you can negotiate and try to, and then I talk about that one about budgeting. I mean, I teach personal finance, so that's something you need to be intentional about. It's not just about what you earn, it's what you're able to retain. That's what I say to employees. It's beyond what you earn, is what you're able to retain. Two, the people, your boss, people you report to, your colleagues at work, and people you do life with outside work. I have a book where I teach people who you need to know to succeed at work and why your boss prefers your colleague. Those two books teach people how to navigate the entire spectrum of people because human beings, we are social animals. So who you talk to, how you talk to them, how you communicate value, how you are valued at work, people. Then 3, performance, your knowledge of the job. How well do you know your job? When I ask this question, I ask people to just sit down. Don't just quickly answer. Sit down and think about it. How well do you know your job? How well does your boss know you know your job? Does your boss know that you know your job? There are 3 levels. I know my job. My boss knows I know my job. My boss knows that I know my job. It changes the conversation completely and drives your performance. And should you be at a job where you feel like I don't find any value in what I'm doing, I'm not happy what I'm doing, find little things in that job that you enjoy. So you may be a customer service rep, you don't like it, but do you like? Are you meeting people and building relationships? Hold on to that as a positive while you're looking for something else. If you're in a job today that you don't enjoy, find something in it that is giving you value till you change jobs.
All right, Omas, we've got a few messages coming through.
Benga Kamut leaves us a message or two, and he says, when it comes to side hustles, Nigerians tend to do the same thing. For example, makeup, that's the market that is saturated. And then he goes on to financial literacy, saying is a must for everyone. Many of us don't know how to manage money. It's collect and spend mentality for many. Benga Kamu's message. Then Fine Oluboroko leaves us this one, and it says, side hustle in Nigeria is the same thing as doing 2 to 3 jobs abroad. The truth is that money is never enough for people. As a result, we must have side hustles to make life easier. Fine Oluboroko.
All right. Thank you for your messages. Thank you for listening. And special thanks to our guest as well, Nneka Jethro-Iruobe. She is the happy employee coach. Nneka's got this beautiful smile on her face, like, I will make you happy while you're at work. So thank you so much, Nneka, for being on the show this morning.
Thank you very much for having me and have a good day. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. And that's it for Business